This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DiCioccio. Hey guys, I'm really excited for today's show. We're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm honored to shine light on an incredible organization. Our guest focuses on creative brand development, strategic community collaboration, and creating company culture. She also can be found inspiring Little Yogis, children who she instructs in her yoga classes, as she believes yoga is for everyone, and she's committed to making it a part of people's lives in any form. She's also the Director of Development and Marketing for EPIC, which stands for Every Person Influences Children, an organization celebrating 40 years of helping families, communities, and schools raise children to become responsible, successful adults. Welcome to the show, Liz Vetrano.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh man, so much great going on right now. A lot of great organizations in our area. We're both from Buffalo and Western New York. But this podcast is really for people all around the world, all around the country, and also around the world. And so what we're going to talk about really can help people in any culture, right? And so that's why I wanted to have you on and talk about EPIC, but your story as well in yoga and kind of who you are as a person. I really want to shine light on you as well. If people aren't familiar with EPIC, though, I'd really like if you can help tell that story. So first of all, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Super excited. EPIC was born out of a tragedy, and it was experienced by founder Robert Wilson in 1977. And I hate to start off on a low note, but the thing is, it's a tragic situation that does have a better ending. So can you share that story to give our audience an understanding of the passion behind EPIC?
Of course. So in 1977, there was a local Buffalo couple, Bob and Penny Wilson, and they had several daughters of their own, and they befriended a foster child that was living next door to them and had him go fishing in their ponds, paid him for odd jobs to do around the house, and really just invited him in as a part of their family. And one day, while Bob was out, that foster teenager broke into the Wilsons' house and murdered Bob's wife, Penny. And he had broken in with the intent to rob them. And so Bob came home and discovered this situation. And instead of seeking vengeance or responding in a way that so many of us, I would imagine, would, he dug in a little deeper to the history behind this child and found out that at age 14, he had already been through 11 different foster homes and was a victim of different types of abuse and had really had a tragic backstory. And, his current foster parents had reached out for support through CPS or other avenues, and they hadn't received the tools that they needed. So Bob was inspired by that. And he was so filled with compassion and empathy for this boy that he founded EPIC so that no family would ever feel so alone that this tragedy would then befall somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking in the late 70s too. So I know at that time there weren't as many resources as today. I wasn't around at that time, so I can't personally confirm it. But I know it's historically documented that there weren't a lot of great resources. And also there's the movie Joker. I don't know if you've seen Joker. And it really tells the story of, I forget his actual name, but the character in the movie who basically is going through a lot of trauma and doesn't have the proper outlets, and he's trying to go and get help, and he's not really getting the right help. And I'm not trying to say what he does in the movie is right, and I'm not trying to say what the boy does to Penny there's no justification for it. But you look at someone who's bounced around 11 times with no real parenting figures in their life, and man, I just give Bob so much credit for being. The only word that comes to my mind is grace. To have the grace to be able to try to help somebody out who literally just destroyed your wife's life and now your life too. and like to be able to be graceful in the moment. I don't know how he reacted directly immediately, but I'm sure there had to be some reflection on this. And then he thinks this moment is not only going to be something I want to research and find how I can help this boy and improve one life. I want to do it to help improve people. Now, is Epic a local thing, or is this all around the country?
So Epic is based out of Buffalo, New York, and then we do have offices in Central Hudson and Rockland counties. But our programs, especially right now, because things are virtual, are accessible to anybody.
That's what I was getting at. So, guys, if you're tuning in, please check this out: epicforchildren.org. And I just, to finish my quick point was, this story wasn't about helping one boy; it was about helping children all across the platform. And you can now tune in digitally, which didn't exist when Bob was coming up with the idea. The internet didn't even come out yet. So now you guys are literally inspiring and connecting with people all over the globe. And what's really cool, something that I'm not sure if I can give you credit if this is one of your gems, but you're in charge of marketing there, right? But you have 40 years coming up. We're celebrating that in the fall, right? So congratulations on 40 great years. So there's a new program out on social that kind of have some fun with it. 40 Days of Fun.
Yes.
I've been following it, and it's really cool. Is that something we can give you kudos on?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Maybe a little bit. So tell us, if anyone who hasn't seen 40 Days of Fun, what's that all about?
Sure. So this entire year of 2020, because it's our 40th anniversary, we've been taking the year and breaking it up into 40-day increments on our social media. So we have 40 Days of Family Fun running right now. Prior to this, we had 40 Days of Fathers. So we talked about the fatherhood specific programs Epic offers. We highlighted amazing local fathers. We told a lot of Bob's backstory. And then prior to that, we had 40 great books and 40 things you can do for family engagement. And what I'm really excited for is coming up after this, we have 40 Days of Heroes. So I think the word hero this year means something very different than what it used to. Epic traditionally always holds a Heroes Gala every November. Clearly that's not happening this year, but heroes now more than ever need to be acknowledged. So we're inviting the whole community. Right on our website, when you go there, it says nominate your hero. And maybe it's your mom, maybe it's a nurse, maybe it's your teacher, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's your child. But we really want to hear from everybody so we can shine a light on the true heroes of 2020.
Yeah, or maybe it's you, the person who's listening to this right now. Maybe it's you who's the hero in someone's life. Maybe it's a sibling, a parent, or a child. But of course, this is about influencing children. So a lot of times the focus is on the children, of course. That's where we want it. And I'll just say this. I have a 5-year-old daughter, beautiful daughter. I'm incredibly blessed. And I find myself, she's very creative and very, her imagination runs wild. And I love that. I always had a great imagination as a kid. So when she's playing with her toys, I really observe what's going on. And a lot of times, she's pulling me in there. All right, Daddy, we're playing. It's play time. And I love doing that. And I also am mindful of using those moments for teaching moments. We have all of her little characters are different friends of each other. And so we do like a playground moment where maybe someone's getting picked on. We literally could like interact with how that moment is going and watching her come in and help out the kid. And so it's like, teaching her different things. I'm trying to erase the word can't out of her vocabulary because sometimes she just goes right from not even trying to, I can't do that. And it's like, okay, well, let's think about what it is. I mean, some things physically not everybody can do. Can I fly right now? Of course, I'm not going to be able to fly right now. But I'll tell you what, like, before we say can't, let's figure out different ways we can do something. Or I'm teaching her how to say, Daddy, can you help me? Because, it could be something like something's too far out of her reach. I can't get it. Okay, well, all we need to do is maneuver over here and sneak over here and step up one time, move the bench. You can totally reach it. And then I'll have her do it and like, see, you can do it. And then the light bulb goes off, right? Or I say, just please ask me for help. There's nothing greater than for me to be able to help you out if I can, right? And so I share that because it's really important for people to have that environment around them. And I know not every child does. So can you talk about the importance of environment for our audience, and then community as well. That's a huge part of what Epic is about. So environment and community, take it away.
Absolutely. So a big thing that Epic has been thinking about as the world has kind of shifted into, quarantine and everything like that, is that expression parenting takes a village, and you still need your village. And now it's just gone virtual. So that was why it was really important that we didn't pause in any of our programming, because for a lot of our families, these programs are required for them to move forth and maintain custody of their children, or continue to provide like an engaged and supportive environment for their children. So if we're bringing it all back to inside of our homes, like this is where parents and families need support more than ever. Also out of this, some new things were born to really keep that idea that there is still community and there is still support, just not in the maybe traditional way that we're used to. So we have support groups now specifically for our parents. So there's one for single parents. There's one for parents that struggle with maybe like discipline strategies, or creating routines for their children, or blurring the line in between when am I working from home and when am I a parent, and how do I do both? So those questions that, everybody is dealing with. Like everybody has a different situation through all of this, but we are all trying to do the same thing, and we're all trying to do our best. And so it's really recreating what that village looks like.
Absolutely. One of the programs is called Epic Academy, right? And then there's Ready, Set, Parent. Are those both active right now?
So Ready, Set, Parent is something that we are relaunching and shifting it so that way it can be virtual for right now. Epic Academy is definitely running it, something that didn't exist prior to COVID-19. So that was something where what we were hearing from a lot of parents that we work with, and even just our own experience as parents, was some were getting a lot of communication from teachers and from schools, and others not so much. And everybo's got the same concerns, which is, is my kid going to fall behind? I'm not a teacher. How do I do this? I don't want them to be on a screen all the time. Like all of these worries that we all have. And so we created Epic Academy with the idea that for the parents that maybe didn't have the guidance coming from the schools, or just wanted some fresh creative ideas, we wanted to be able to offer them. So we have videos from STEM to art to Common Core to story time. So a lot of different stuff out there for different age groups.
This is awesome. I'm surprised. I mean, it's on me. I don't know where I've been, but when we met a few short weeks ago through a mutual connection, it's the first time I heard Epic, and I've been in Buffalo my whole life, and I've been involved with multiple organizations. I'm really surprised that I didn't know more about it. I mean, it's not some little thing that just started. I mean, this is 40 years. There's multiple programs. There's different layers. You're extremely well articulating like everything that's going on, right? So there's a lot of great direction with the leadership team. I had the benefits of meeting the team last week as well. So I just want to compliment both yourself and the organization for really putting this thing together. It's a well-oiled machine right now, dealing with a pandemic, and doing it with ease might be a stretch, right? Because I'm sure there's days when you're pulling your hair out and it looks like everything's upside down. But you really are. I mean, you're handling it. We talked about grace. You're doing it gracefully. What I'd really like to do too, I feel like it would, I don't want this episode to go on without really shining more light on Robert, on Bob, right? And the founder of the company. So is he still alive too?
No,
okay.
He's not. I did have the pleasure of speaking with a lot of his daughters. So his daughters are spread all over the country. And, one of them, I feel like I know him,
Did you get to meet him?
No, I never have.
No. Okay. All right. Yeah. Tell the stories that you heard from his daughters. That would be wonderful to hear.
Yeah. So they shared the fun stuff, like about how he was famous for making like midnight milkshakes, and they would sneak down in the kitchen and see him at the blender. And then, they also shared more personal things, like he wrote a thank you letter every day for a year after his wife passed to every single person that reached out to him. And it wasn't like a note. It was like a full front and back, like a letter, letting each person know how grateful he was. So, and he just really believed in the power of community And he had so much empathy and so much just inquiry. Like it wasn't about chastising or blaming or victimizing this boy. It was about, all right, great. Well, this is what happened. So how do we move forward? How do I serve? How do I help? So Epic so truly was founded. His one daughter referred to it as resurrection. Really, he went from a broken man, and just the grace and the resilience that he displayed is something that we really try to embody every day. And also the idea of inclusivity, that this tragedy is not, it could touch anybody, absolutely any parent, any family, and all families need support and service and to be treated with kind, positive regard. And that is something that we say in all of our programming and within our own conversations is kind, positive regard. We believe in the parents that come to us, and we believe in the power of family. Absolutely.
Let this episode be in honor to the late, great Robert Wilson and everybody that's been a part of his team over the years. Some are still active with the group over many years, and now there's great leadership, including yourself. So I wanted to do this today to take time out of both of our schedules to make sure that we are totally honoring the original story of Robert. And it sounds like everyone on the team really has a great appreciation for him. Sometimes people work for a company or an organization. It could be, a product or service too. It could be working for Apple, and they might not really totally understand the story. But that's actually a company where I feel like a lot of people are. That's a good example of people who are connected with their purpose and the why behind it. That's why I think Apple does so well. There's some organizations, they may not even know the founder's name or why they started it. And even take it back to whether it's like a situation where there's a regional manager and then maybe a district manager and a store manager or whatever it is, or if you're working in an office environment, you have all these different layers. It's kind of like in the movie Office Space, where Lumbergh comes around and you ask about the TPS reports, and then there's this person who asks you to do it 10 minutes later, and there's another person. And they don't really understand that the employee doesn't always understand why they're doing what they do or what the purpose is. And one of the greatest compliments for an organization is when everybody is working in unison, and there is a great company culture. And I can feel that in your voice, and I can see it in the research I did, and I can also see it on the call I had with a couple members of your team. So I think that's fantastic. Also, another thing that's fantastic is you guys partnered up with Rich Products, a great brand here in Buffalo, New York. The parent-to-parent group donated 800 books to Buffalo kids in need, and that was in October, I believe, right? Tell us more about that. 800 books. That's awesome.
That's a little embarrassing. I don't have any information on that.
Okay. Well, that's all right. But I mean, it happened, right? So people can actually research that. I saw that on Instagram. So if you go, again, their Instagram is Epic for Children with no spaces or anything. And you can go and check it out. But it was pretty incredible. And I just a shout out to you guys doing great things right here in our neighborhood.
Yeah, there are definitely, I will say, some really incredible partnerships happening right now, and with organizations similarly to what you were saying that I hadn't necessarily heard of before or worked with before.
There's a lot of things going on there. I don't expect you to have your personal thumbprint on every single thing. How about this one? Story time in the neighborhood. That's active. Tell us more about that. Is that always at the same location, or does it kind of bop around?
Yeah, so our Storytime program in general is something that has existed for quite some time and has taken on a few different forms. So it's a program that we bring into schools and into families' homes, and also currently is running at Canalside every week. So we do our Storytime at Canalside program, and that's all virtual. So families can just watch live on our Facebook page from...
I was going to say, how are you doing with COVID? So you have a cool location in the background, but it's safe because people tune in from home.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. And they can do that by following hashtag Storytime in the neighborhood.
So that one is Storytime at Canalside, actually. And then Storytime in the neighborhood, we actually are beginning with a live component to it. So that is kicking off August 19th. So that's going to be one Wednesday a month at the corners of Clark and Kent. So Superman Corner, as they call it. So parents and families will be invited to come because we'll have it set up in a socially distant and appropriate way. And it will also be streaming virtually for parents that would prefer that mode. So that's a super exciting partnership with Jericho Road. And what Storytime entails is not just a story, but we have different members of the community that will read for us each time. We have a complementing STEM activity. We have art activities, a movement component that ties in with the theme of the book. So it's really the idea, it's targeted for the whole child. And the best part of the partnership with Jericho Road is the books will not only be read in English, but in an additional second language every week as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Talk about too how these programs, do you have ways of kind of checking in on a child's progress over the years? Is there some one-on-one, or is it mostly kind of group assessment, helping the parents get resources, and this needs to happen at home?
It really depends. And that's where you mentioned Ready, Set, Parent before as such a great example. So parents and families can come to us at any time and really sort of create their own roadmap as to where they want to start. And maybe it is just that one program. Maybe they finish the one and realize it's the perfect segue into another one. Maybe they finish one, don't work with us for a couple years, but then have different struggles in a particular area as their child gets older, and then they come back to us for a different program. So we have things from birth through teenagers.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, so it's not just set someone up and they have a little moment of success, and then how do you replicate it, right? So there's processes in place that help this be the long-term goal, which comes back to Robert's vision in the beginning, where there was a kid and it wasn't what he did, it was why he did it, and the broken processes that aren't a one-day fix. It's an effort that basically is compounding over the years, right? And then it's parents that are following the processes, your team following them, and the kid also has to do their part too, right? But with the right leadership, someone can be inspired to do great things, which is a big part of this show. We want to know more about Liz, okay? So we talked about Epic. All right, let's do a little stretch. This part requires some stretching. We're getting into doing a little bit of yoga. I don't know much about yoga. I want to learn. So you're going to be our little educator here. And I say little because you focus on yoga for kids, which is super cool. And let me guess, do you enjoy working with kids? I'm just going to go and throw this out. You love children. Tell us about what you do helping out children with yoga, through yoga.
Of course. So yoga is something that is so fascinating to me because it's a different landscape now for kids than when we were growing up. But I remember if you weren't good at team sports, then you were not physical when you were little. You know, you had to be the fastest or the strongest or be part of a team or be super coordinated. So things that I was not growing up. And I think that for a lot of children can lend itself to them not really being present in their body or feeling ownership over their body. And so yoga is something that is so fascinating to me because it is not a team sport. There are 1,000 ways to do one pose. They all count. They all matter. They're all yoga. And it's all about just personal progress. That's why we always say to the little kids, you know, it's called a yoga practice. It's not a yoga perfect. So there's so many ways that yoga can help, and not even just with the physical aspect of feeling empowered in their own bodies, but helping them with their breath work, helping them with mindfulness, helping them with self-regulation tools. There's a really cool thing that I love to do with kids as a meditation in the start of class. We call it our peace fingers. So they start to tap each finger on their thumb. And as they do that, they say, peace begins with me. And they say it over and over. And my students have come back to me and said that they do this in their pockets on the school bus when they're scared to ride the school bus, or right before a test when they're feeling super anxious, because you don't need a tool. You don't need a fidget spinner. You don't need to rattle anything. You always have your fingers. And so they just can do this, you know, and again, hands can be in the pockets where nobody else even sees you, but it's something that they've taken off of the mat and into the world.
I just wrote that down. Peace begins with me. It's such a great way to start the day. Peace begins with me. I love it. I'm going to teach Isabel that. How's that sound?
So we say it 3 times in a regular voice and then 3 times in a whisper, and then 3 times in our heads.
Wow. So 3 times audible, 3 times whisper, 3 times mental.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Very cool. I'm learning. See, I knew there was more value here. And we could go on for hours. I know that. Good connection here. Let's go now let's do a little bit more yoga 101. What are some of the health benefits for the mind? Prior to preparing for this, I was listening to another, I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a great mind doctor and just a great mindset. Fantastic interview as well. And I was listening to him, and funny enough, preparing for this, and it kind of got me thinking more of the mindset of yoga, and I'd love to hear your expertise on that.
For sure. So I think that but people will store things physically in their bodies. So emotional trauma, mental trauma, other kinds of things, just bad memories in general, good memories in general, that all is ingrained in our muscle memory. And that can manifest a lot in physical symptoms, whether it is cysts or whether it's migraines or whether it's, just muscle tension. And that can at times be trauma literally manifesting itself in your body. So there's this super fascinating book called The Body Keeps the Score that dives into it a little bit more deeply and will explain it in a much more articulate way than I could. But it is the concept. So when we say trauma-informed yoga, it is the idea that we are using yoga to help not only the body, but the mind heal from what has happened to people in their lives.
Yes, I don't want to butcher this either, but something he was talking about is almost like your body is made up of like your thoughts, or like your the way you feel, like basically the feelings you have, right? They all kind of ball up into a physical form, and that's your body. And it sounds like yoga is a way of releasing that, or getting it kind of back to level. Because, we talk about, a lot of people focus on diet and exercise, 2 incredibly important things. The third one is sleep, right? Which is something I need to get more time. Scheduling sleep is very important. Making sure we put the right food in our body is super important, and moving our body is important. Yoga is a little bit different, though. It's not just the physical exertion of burning calories. It's burning the mental tension. And many people in 2020 are dealing with things they've never dealt with. Losing their job, tension at home because now you're the teacher. Kids not getting out of the house because they're worried about their health, obviously, and who they're interacting with. So there's this balled up energy that needs to come out. And yoga sounds like a great thing that people, if they're not doing it, like myself, I'm highly now considering doing this every day, at least on a elementary level, to start to do some of these things to release those tensions. And it's actually a super healthy way to do that. Instead of just watching Netflix for an hour to try to mentally release, go do yoga for an hour. So talk about some intro concepts that you can give us, some freebies here to get started,
Well, honestly, where it all begins is we can't move properly if we are not breathing properly. And it is really fascinating the amount of people who very unintentionally are used to breathing, but having the breath stop right about here. And not having it go all the way down and filling up the belly and filling up the lungs and then coming back out. We're very firing on an adrenal level from here to here. And so I would say before we do anything, almost every class begins this way for a reason. You just sit and notice your breath. Just notice it. Don't try to hold it or make it longer or deeper. Just see where it starts and stops. And then we know where the work is. Because before we really, a lot of yoga is about moving your body with the breath. So on the inhale, we do this, and on the exhale, we do this. But if our breath is only going from here to here, and we can't stretch it out a little bit longer, then everything we are going to do is going to stay tight or stay shallow or stay rapid. And we want to really
release that or elongate that. Wow, that's really good. So just pay attention to kind of where it's almost just like stretching, where your elasticity is of your lungs. And if you haven't stretched in a long time, or done a lot of physical exercise, chances are your reach is going to be pretty limited. And if you stretch, guess what? It's going to expand a little bit. There's some mental exercises to do that too. I've learned about the art of visualization. My tongue doesn't ever want to say that word. And it sounds like yoga is the same thing. It's visualizing the breath and then moving with it, as you said. So step one is really get in tune with your breathing, and two is moving the body with each breath. Do you do anything digitally? I didn't really prepare for this part of it, but is there, for education or maybe even online classes or anything available from you?
Yeah, all of the above. So a few different avenues. On Epic's YouTube channel, I have yoga for kids videos. I also have we have a section called Parenting on Pause, and there we have like a 5-minute yoga routine that you can do in your desk chair. So when you only have 5 minutes, maybe in between Zooms, and it really targets your entire body. We have different meditations that you can do. There's a great one on there that I love called Layers of Sound. And that one is great at reducing anxiety for both children and parents. And I really recommend that one.
Say it again, Layers of Sound?
Layers of Sound, because we're transitioning back for a lot of children if they are returning to school, or for adults if they're returning to the office. We are now jumping right into being around people again. And yes, it may have been what we think we're all waiting for. And that doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult. Even if it's something we've wanted so badly to return to normal life, it doesn't mean we're going to ease right back into it and have it be like riding a bike. That may not be the case. So having things heightened like that, so much more noise, so many more people, so much more going on, it can produce a lot of anxiety for both kids and adults. So this Layers of Sound meditation starts with the chaos, and you bring it all back in until you're only listening to your own breath.
Wow. I love the synergy behind your yoga work and what Epic's about, especially because it also helps children in many ways. My daughter actually has anxiety, and I don't know if it stems from the fact that myself and her mother are divorced parents. And, we had her when we were married, and we got divorced 3 years ago. And, so she's kind of does a little bit of the bopping around. She's at dad's, she's at mom's. And I feel it sometimes in her body language that she's kind of like, but she's been doing so good with it. Like, haven't experienced it any other way. So I can't compare it to anything, but I feel like there's a lot of grace with her. There's sometimes when I can see that she's kind of struggling with it, and I do see anxiety in her mannerisms too. And so I'm definitely going to be seeking this out. Layers of Sound yoga for kids for her, also for myself. And then I'm going to share this with her mom. So this is awesome. And anyone that's listening that maybe was really interested in the first part of this, talking about Epic, the programs, getting kids educated and getting leadership around them, their environment, their community. Well, what about their mind? What if they have great resources around them, but they're still working with anxiety? And people who are obviously kids and anybody, adults that are around a rough situation, bopping around to multiple foster homes, multiple parents. Sometimes it's even more than two parents. There's like a step parent or an aunt or uncle who's watching kids, or whatever it might be, school teachers. You hear about these horrible stories with COVID where the students aren't getting great nutrition because they're at a home in a bad environment. So how important is it for them to really get their mind right? It's super important. So what you do is actually tying everything together, and I love that. You want to talk a little bit more about Little Yogis just for a moment, and kind of what the first steps for a parent would be to get the resources, and just like what you would recommend them to do on day one?
Yeah, of course. And I did want to say too, there are a lot of studios out there that are offering virtual kids classes as well. So I do also teach at Yoga Parkside, and I'm starting a virtual series again for kids. They run them in 5-week increments. And so all of that is held through Zoom. So that's accessible to kids as well.
Yeah.
There's also just tons of great books out there. I would absolutely recommend those. They have the poses right in them. They're really wonderful, like applicable for children as well. So that's really nice, because the thing is, especially as you mentioned, with a lot of kids that have to go back and forth in between homes, like my daughter has to do that as well. She's 6. And it's the idea that that yoga, like, and the tools that we have and the self-regulation and the mindfulness, like that is something that you can take with you everywhere. It
Mhm.
is, you don't need props. You don't need like a field. You don't
Right.
need
You just
equipment.
need
Like,
you, yourself, and I, right in the moment.
yeah. Yeah. And now it's really fun because kids are so resilient and they pick up on things so quick that
Mhm.
I've noticed with so many of my students that we take a couple classes together and they'll come back to me and be like, I made up a yoga adventure, and we're doing all their poses and they make up unicorn pose and they're going through a forest. And
Oh
a lot
my
of
God.
times the stories that they're telling are how they actually feel their own life is, like a unicorn walking through the forest.
Mhm.
Like, when it's getting darker and darker, but then the unicorn finds their friends. And so they use it to play out what is actually going on with them.
Wow.
Which is
Yeah.
really amazing to see. And it does tie into the idea also of like parenting through play, made for the families out there that,
We
there
were
are,
talking about earlier. That's a lot of what we're doing.
yeah, like maybe I don't know how to play with my kid. Like I want to play with my kid, but I don't know how. Like you hear that a lot,
Mhm.
and so for me, what I have found is yoga is a great way to play with your kid, because then they can act out maybe what they don't want to talk to you about, but you
Mhm.
can still gather what is going on and be with them in that space.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, share that. You got two incredible well, more than two incredible things that you're doing, but just the synergy is great there. And what I'm going to do too is not only the host of this show, the producer of this show, I'm going to get your show notes in there. So any books you want to share, we can put the links,
Oh, absolutely.
website. If there's a Zoom link for even doing yoga or kind of step one, I want people to be able to come to this as a talk about resource, hear
Mhm.
your story, hear your interview, and say, okay, Mike, what do I do now? And it's all clickable. So literally like one click away from taking the next step. We don't want to
For
send
sure.
people on a wild chase. Tell us this: what's one new skill or positive takeaway that you have from quarantine?
Mm. I will say two things. Am I allowed to say two things?
I'll let it slide.
So on a personal level, I'm very grateful to have just had this time home, not only with my daughter, but with my dog. Because I think, as a single parent, so much of life is paying other people to watch your children or watch your
Mm,
animals because you're out working. And so to be able to be home with them,
yeah,
has been incredible.
yeah,
And I think my second thing is just having a newfound appreciation for the resilience of children. Honestly,
absolutely.
the way that they view this as such a wild adventure, and if you worry so much as a parent about, am I giving them enough, am I doing enough, or feeling guilt about if you're working and not paying attention to them all the time, and hearing how excited she is that I'm home every day, and like just knowing my dog like is going nuts the day she's never been home with me this much.
Yeah.
So the idea
They're
that
both
working
spoiled now, right? They're both going to be
yeah,
all these kids that have a great thing going for them. Unfortunately, it's going to be kind of next year. It's going to be a different shock, right? Going back
but
to
I think just how they view this as such an amazing wild adventure, and how that can differ so much maybe from the way that parents are coming at it or the way that we're feeling so much uncertainty, but that they just think like, wow, this is awesome, like what's our family going to do next?
yeah.
So yeah, definitely the resilience of kids.
I love that question because the reason I have it in here is it forces us to think about positive perspective, like a horrible situation. And man, this show is all about that horrible situation with Bob and Penny, and look what has come from it. As tragic as that event was, look at all of this that's come from it. It's almost like you don't want to say sacrifice because you didn't make the decision, but it's a horrible situation that happens. And now there's 40 years of children being impacted in a positive way. So quarantine, look, we can all say we got to lock ourselves in our basements and not talk and see people, and it could be really devastating. Or we all hop on Zoom. I continue to do the show. You continue to work with your teammates. Your daughter's by your side more than ever. Your dog is sitting there like, this is great, kicking back, enjoying life. I mean, that's the way that you chose to deal with it rather
Yeah,
than the negative way. So definitely a message out to the audience to get it right in here and figure out where you want to go with it. How about this?
I
Who's
think
your, Go
oh
ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, I will just say there is something so blissfully ironic and perfect about the fact that all of this is happening during Epic's 40th anniversary year, because, we had, of course, all of these grand plans and none of them are happening. But on the opposite side of the coin, our entire Parenting Doesn't Stop project didn't exist before quarantine. So
Right.
much amazing stuff was born out of it. And isn't parenthood one giant exercise in agility and things not going the way that you thought? So like how amazing, honestly, that this is happening during the 40th year, because it's really having us put our money where our mouth is.
Wow. Well said. I think I just found the highlight, the clip for my promo for this episode. Boom, right there. Go back and listen to that again. So well said. Yeah, parenting is definitely a, overcoming adversity and different challenges, and being your kids looking at you like, you got this together, right? I'm counting on you. And if you show, sometimes I catch myself like, man, was it really worth complaining about something so ridiculous? I mean, and my daughter's in earshot, she hears that. So I've been very mindful, and I try to eliminate all that junk anyways, of just like poor mindset. But sometimes you catch yourself. Something happens and we catch ourselves, and it's who's watching. Our kids are always tuned in, always watching. Mm-hmm. Where do you tune in? Look at these segues, are brilliant. Where do you tune in? What kind of positive content are you watching, listening to, reading?
I love reading. I will say that I am slacking on my podcast game. But I actually just read a really fascinating book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And I think at this time in particular, that's pretty poignant. I'm also a really big fan of Brené Brown, so I find myself going back to The Gifts of Imperfection a lot, especially during this time. I think that the things she has to say are so applicable to so many different stages of life. And then again, that book I referenced earlier, The Body Keeps the Score, and just really paying attention to the physical toll that this year has had, not just on me, but on the people that I'm serving.
Yeah. Appreciate that. I'm going to check those out as well. This one is a little bit deeper here. So take a deep breath if you need it. You're really good at that too, right? If you can be known for one thing, what would it be?
Belief in people.
Wow. So the fact that you are giving people that chance that maybe a lot of people aren't giving someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the idea that anyone can be anything, and that mistakes do not define you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's that could be a whole episode. I think about someone like Einstein, right? He was behind when he was a child and put in all these special classes, and his mom, I believe, was told that he wasn't going to amount to anything. And he's Einstein, right? He was thinking and growing and learning at a different speed, but there was this brilliant mind behind it.
Yeah.
So I always think the same thing. Like when I'm meeting someone, maybe there's some drawbacks to it, but what's the brilliance underneath all of it? Maybe there's just a reason for the callus or something. So that's really awesome.
It's so interesting because, I think as we evolve, we're different versions of ourselves, right? And, I look at growing up, I would take my dad's medical pad and write notes to get myself out of gym class. And I would, take ace bandages out of the closet and say I sprained something and I couldn't possibly do soccer tryouts. So the idea that I could go from there to now being a personal trainer and being a yoga instructor, is, my family still laughs about it. And so I think anyone can be anything. And
you're proof of it.
It is what you're called to do.
You believed in yourself, and although you felt, athletically maybe not gifted in the time, and that was kind of something you internalized, you then grew into a more confident person as time went, and now about that experience, and you're turning around and using what you learned to help others. Yeah. Which is really what I encourage everybody to do. Whatever your thing is, everybody's different. I have personal things I learned. Going through the divorce, I learned a lot about myself and reflected. And then now I'm actually doing things 180, the things that I didn't like that I grew and now feel more not only inspired, but I'm in tune with it now, because you don't really, sometimes you got to get hit over your head over with a frying pan, right? Before you maybe learn something. Some things come gracefully, some things you need that moment, but it's like what you take with the information. So a devastating moment or whatever it is, getting picked on in gym class, and how do you take that and turn it into what you can do with the rest of your life, and it could be a small moment, it could be a huge moment. Absolutely love what you're doing, and I appreciate you sharing that too. Couple more here. So I told you off camera what the mission of my show is, right? Remember what it was? To inspire people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. You have your microphone on your side. Talk to our audience. What can you tell them to inspire them to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams?
I mean, it sounds so obvious, but I would just say, like, be committed to the goal and not attached to the way you're going to get there. So it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to take a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to look like the way someone else did it. It might stop and start and stop again. But if you're committed to the goal, then it makes it a lot easier to navigate your path to get there, because you're not attached to the way you're doing it.
Wow. We might have to extend time in the promo cut down, because there's so many good, amazing, just mic drop moments. Here's the deal. I've never done that in the show. We got mic'd up, but we should have mic drop moments. Would be great.
Such a good idea.
That's a great idea, where I can do like a little digital microphone that pops up. It's a mic drop moment. Oh, you just created it. I'll give you credit. I promise. I'll give you credit. But what you just said is really important for us to hang on that for one more second. So I wrote it down. Be committed to the goal, not exactly to how you're going to get there. I think as an entrepreneur, business owner, parent, could be anybody. It could be a salesperson with their monthly goals that they need to hit. Realize the goal is here. And then, if you only have one game plan to get there and the game plan's shot down, are you just going to change your goals? A lot of people change their goals. Oh, I wanted to make 100 grand this month. We're doing 50. We never did 50 before. So let's all celebrate it. Let's bring in cake and everything else. What happened? Our goal was 100. Oh, we just lowered it. It kind of feels better. We all hit our goals. Like, that's something we can celebrate. Sure. But you changed your goal. Don't change the goal. Change the different things you're going to do to get there. And that's one thing that I think is remarkable. And anyone who's listening, maybe you haven't had the experience of being an entrepreneur, but I can speak from experience of, it's amazing how much we go into problem solving mode. And it could be anyone. It could be a leader in an organization. You're given a task. Hey, I want you to create this new thing, Epic Academy or Ready, Set, Parent. All right, Liz, go figure it out. You go figure it out. It doesn't work. They don't want to hear at the end of the month that your plan just didn't work. You creatively are learning, adapting, and growing constantly to get to where you want to go. And that's your message for people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. Guys, that's one of the best. I've done 42 plus episodes now. When this comes out, there's going to be more than that. And that is one of my favorite things, because it really kind of takes everything we're looking to do. And it's a great reminder that it's not always going to go according to plan. Do not get discouraged. Readjust your plan. Don't change your goal.
And I would say too, just as a quick side note, like really looking at what that goal is, and is that really the goal, or is that something bigger picture? Like I hear a lot of times in my, fitness life, my goal is to lose 10 pounds. And it's like, okay, like, is it really to lose 10 pounds, or is it to have a healthier relationship with food? Is it to not get what you did when you walk up the stairs? Is it to lose that 10 pounds, but like gain 10 pounds of muscle? Like, is it to feel more confident? Like, what is the real goal? Like the 10 pounds is a side effect of the real goal. So I would say, let's look at that as well.
Totally. That's awesome. What are 3 things that you're most grateful for? probably heard me say be great and be grateful a time or two. What are
Mhm.
3 things that you reflect in gratitude on a daily basis?
I mean, outside of the obvious, like daughter, dog, and coffee.
Well,
Um,
let's put them as number 1. Daughter, dog, and coffee are number 1.
I'm really, really grateful for nature.
Mm,
Absolutely. I'm grateful for bare feet in nature. Uh,
okay.
like the beach in particular is something that I don't think I will ever take for granted. So,
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's cool. So we'll say family 1,
mhm.
nature and the beach is 2. Is there a third thing that you want to share that you just are extremely grateful for?
I mean, coffee is 3, I think,
Coffee.
right now.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I mean, I honestly don't know if I can get through some of these interviews without it, just because there's so much going on, and the day is long. But I'll tell you this: I saw someone quote this last night. Del Reed from 26 Shirts, and I always plug him
Yeah.
over here because he started Bill's Mafia and a great organization for giving. He had a quote last night, something about you're never sleeping when you're living your dream or something along those
Mhm.
lines, basically. And it was late. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I saw it. And the way I took that as, I know he's doing a lot of shipments. This whole Buffalo Blue Jays thing, the Blue Jays are now playing Major League
Yes.
Baseball in Buffalo because of the COVID-19 restrictions and stuff. And so they created these Buffalo baseball T-shirts with like a
Yeah, so
buffalo that looks
awesome.
like the Blue Jay colors,
Mhm.
and they're just like working 24 hours a day getting these shipments out. They had to bring it back because they do a different shirt every 2 weeks. And so he said something like, "You're not never asleep when when you're living the dream," kind of thing. And I agree. I mean, my days fly by. I'm typically putting 12-hour days in, and I'm happy to do it. And it's more frustrating for me when the day has to. That's why I say I need to get more sleep, because I always feel like I want to get more out of it. There's more there. There's more to do. There's more people to influence. There's more good things for me to learn that I can do. So it's funny because I remember working jobs I absolutely hated. All I cared about was Friday at 5 o'clock in the weekend. And now it's like when the weekend comes, I'm mindful of spending great time with quality time with my daughter, but it also feels like, when Friday hits and there's so much more to do, it's more anxiety of like, I got more to do. The week can't end yet.
Yeah.
How can we squeeze more into it? So I know you get it. This is awesome. Guys, Liz Vetrano, you could follow her on LinkedIn and definitely connect with her because she's active on there. She's doing great things. Epic for Children, you can see that at epicforchildren.org and on Instagram and Facebook as well. Any last words you want to share before signing off?
That I believe in you. Go do it.
Well, I believe in you too, Liz. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your time and your friendship as well.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKED uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.